Hey everybody, it's Jason with Parallel Reality coming back with you today with not some actual news, but I am out of town right now as I usually am on Thanksgiving and for the week afterwards. So we're just going to get some random stuff that isn't really that timely, I guess, here to fill in the gaps while I'm out, and we'll get back to the news when I'm back. So, found this article here. It's from October 6th from Bleeding Fool. It says, Marvel Comics killed classic Silver Surfer to match MCU's new female version. And I think I've made mention of this before, that Silver Surfer, this is the Norrin Rad version that you're looking at on the screen right now. This is actually my favorite character in comic books, so this annoys me a bit. And I know I did one of those reaction videos to the Fantastic Four trailer when it came out a while ago. I never went and saw the movie, and frankly, I don't really care to. And not for any reason other than I just don't really give much of a crap about Hollywood stuff these days. But I know that the Silver Surfer in that movie was not Norrin Rad, again, the character on the screen. And I do remember a long time ago that Kevin Feige had made or he had said something about, that the movies were going to inform the comic books, and the comics were going to change to fit more to the movies, which I think is just an absolutely stupid idea, considering the comics are the source material, and, you know, considering those come out every month, there's dozens of them a month, and there's, a movie every, nowadays, maybe, twice a year? Something like that. Like, why change everything around for the movies? Especially for a franchise that seems to be on a downward spiral, as it is. Just, again, seems stupid. But let's go ahead and get into this, because this just, again, really annoys me. It says, Cosmic Book News comments on Marvel's latest laughable attempt to change their specific comics for the sake of reflecting movies that have long fallen out of favor with the audience, here being the now unsuccessful Fantastic Four film starring leftist actor Pedro Pascal, who sullied the proceedings with his relentless political drivel. It says, just when I'm about ready to give Marvel Comics another shot. It says, Imperial and related titles are decent. Imperial, I think Jonathan Hickman's writing. Jonathan Hickman is a fantastic author, or writer, I should say. I haven't read everything he's read a lot. He's a very high concept sort of guy, and he's writing a series called Imperial. I'll probably read the trade paperback when it comes out. But he says, just when I'm ready to give Marvel Comics another shot, the woke weirdos running the company go and remind me why I stopped reading in the first place, as they churn out more garbage that turns me off completely. And in the comic book sphere, you'll see that Marvel still gets ragged on quite a bit for doing woke stuff. DC seems to be very slowly turning it around, but then like one thing comes out occasionally where it's like, DC, what are you doing, man? But Marvel still seems to be going down the path, and they think it's still like, 2018 to 2022 in that area. So, continuing on with the article, it says, I used to help Marvel Comics promote Nova and Guardians of the Galaxy about 15 years ago, so they're great comics that have never been the same, and I would agree with those. Both of those runs are great, and in fact, that Guardians of the Galaxy run is what actually the movie was based on. And the Nova, if you don't know who Nova is, he's in that same sort of Marvel cosmic sphere. And that series, I think both those series, Nova and Guardians of the Galaxy, were written by the same creative team. So very good stuff. It says, that'll change when Disney bought Marvel. It says, out went all our favorites, and in came the all-new, all-woke Marvel, which killed the brand. It's the same crap that Kevin Feige adapted post-Endgame that has been a complete disaster for the MCU. All those dummies hate comics. It shows. Now, to further sync up Feige's crappy MCU with the crappy Marvel Comics, it says to fit with the Fantastic Four, First Steps movie that nobody watched. I wouldn't say nobody, but not nearly as many people as they were expecting, I think. Marvel Comics is killing off the Silver Surfer, replacing Norrin Rad with the all-new female Silver Surfer. And in fact, as I'm recording this, which is mid-October, the series is ongoing, and by the time you hear this, I think it will still be ongoing. I think there's still a few more issues. It's only like a 5-issue miniseries or something, but as far as I'm aware, it is still going on right now. It's sure to be a big hit, just like the movie. All those Fantastic Four movies, fans are going to run to their LCS to buy this, right? Guess what? They don't even know what an LCS is, and by the way, it's a local comic shop. It says, I haven't read any of the issues, don't plan on it, but the first issue was released in June. Okay, so it'll be... November is probably the last month then. It says, next month sees the 5th issue released, maybe the last, which apparently introduces the new female Silver Surfer. Yeah, she looks like a dude. It says, the character has butch short hair, looks like cosmic powers in the arms, hands, and neck. Looks like cosmic powers in the arms. Okay, that's a weird sentence, but okay. The character art actually shows boobs, but hey, check out the official cover. No boobs. They're covered. It says, it is so unbelievable I can't help but laugh. So that must have been from the Cosmic Book News article, and Bleeding Cool jumps back in here and says, yet it really isn't funny how the artists are dumbing down the new character's femininity so badly and making her look alarmingly unappealing in spite of what they say. I must take issue, however, with the notion Marvel was doing well up until 15 years ago, because several years before that, Joe Quesada and Bill Jemas took over, and Spider-Man was one of the biggest victims of their early woke fests, as was Mary Jane Watson, and I didn't read Spider-Man at that time, so I don't know what happened there. It says, is that when... No, never mind, I was thinking of something else. Oh, that might have been during the Brand New Day storyline that I know everybody that has read Spider-Man and has been a Spider-Man fan absolutely loathes with a passion. Maybe that's what was going on. Again, didn't read Spider-Man. I never really was a Spider-Man person, so I really can't explain what that possibly was, but I have a feeling that was it. It says, doesn't that count as something awful that happened during their management? And let's not forget Avengers Disassembled, which I actually liked, but I understand why people did not like it, because it kind of rearrange the status quo for the Avengers, but again, I liked it. So let's also not forget DC went downhill around the same time. It says either, but same time as well is really what it should say. Marvel's attempts to mimic certain elements from movies adapted from their comics isn't new. A quarter century ago, when the X-Men movie came out, they changed the team's costumes to black leather style outfits, and worse was when Grant Morrison was assigned to write new X-Men, while a few other bad writers like Chuck Austen were assigned to Uncanny. And I don't know what the problem is with the Grant Morrison X-Men run. I was not an X-Men person either, though I was a Grant Morrison fan, and I read the X-Men book because he was writing it specifically, and I didn't have a problem with it, but again, not an X-Men person, so I'm not the right person necessarily to be qualified to say how different that was from other things. The only other X-Men stuff I've read is like the stuff everybody else has read, like the Days of Future Past and Dark Phoenix storylines, and kind of like that's not much more than that, really. But the Chuck Austen stuff, I know people have a problem with him. I never really did, though he's one of those guys that popped in and got overexposed very quickly, and I think that's why people had a problem with them. But yes, this what they're saying about the costume style changes was in fact what happened, that they took what the movies did and put it in the comics. It says, I think even the Spider-Man comics later began depicting Peter Parker as though he had organic web shooting like the films, and DC too has their share of pointless attempts to mimic movie elements at the expense of talented writing and art. It says, none of these changes led to any long-range success or serious increase in moviegoers reading the comics, so why do they think this will be any different? Yeah, that's the thing too, is that they keep trying to do the mimicking of what the movies are doing, and it doesn't translate to people reading more of the comics, especially when with things like Marvel, how they've changed everything, like Iron Man is now Ironheart, or Captain America is now, as they're saying, Captain African American or something like that, and in the movies, and then in the comics, if they change it to that, people are going to come to the store being like, I want to see Iron Man as in Tony Stark, and look at the comic, and it's not Tony Stark. Or it's not Steve Rogers as Captain America, or any number of other characters are not the characters that are being presented on the screen. So they keep changing stuff like that, and then expecting people are just going to come into the stores and read the comics, or they're going to be disappointed when they come into the store, and it's like, that's not who Iron Man is anymore. Because in the end, it's just a sad excuse they're using for getting rid of Norrin Rad, probably in their efforts to drag the Marvel franchise down ever further, and in this case, they're not even trying to offer a decently written replacement at all. And I don't know who the replacement is. I think I saw the character's name was supposed to be like Kelly Koh, K-O-H, or something like that. But again, because I'm not sure this is going to work, because people always come back to we want the actual character. We don't want a replacement character, which is why you have Peter Parker and Miles Morales, and Steve Rogers, as well as Bucky and Sam Wilson all have been Captain America, and you can look at the Hulk and Iron Man as well. There's multiples for every character. Now you got it for the Silver Surfer, and I'm sure at some point in the future they're going to go back to Norrin Rad will somehow make his way back into the Marvel universe. But I'll still read this when it comes out just to see what they did for it and see if it really is as bad as this writer is making out to be. I don't think it's going to be, but I'll find out. So, just wanted to point that out. So, I'm going to go back to my vacation, so that I'm not on as I'm recording this, but I will be as of when you hear this. So, let me know what you think about this in the comments below. Do you agree with this decision? Please like, share, and subscribe, and I will talk to you soon. Bye.